Thank you everyone for joining us. Today I'd like to walk you through a bit of analysis for a new potential client. The client is a relatively new e-commerce company that sells a variety of products online with order values between $10 and $40. We'll dive into some of the information we have for the company's ad buying platform, as well as some of its site analytics so we can focus on key areas. Let's begin by summarizing what data we have, as well as combining this information together to look for any obvious trends. We can see here 1 day's worth of ad buying data. Across the 3 separate channels of ad spend, we can see the client has invested in paid search, display remarketing, and social audience targeting. Very clearly, paid search has been their chief focus, with $672 in total cost. Likely, it's not a coincidence this increased cost has led to not only the highest amount of clicks and impressions, but also the highest amount of conversions and total order value as well. If we drill into these segments a bit more, you can also connect an increase in cost to click as well. This certainly shows up when we consider click-through rates of each channel, with paid search being the highest at 7%. However, there was a significant increase in cost for cost per click. Paid search was nearly double the other 2 channels at $1.52. Diving into impressions also shows a positive connection to cost, however not as drastic as with clicks and click-through rates. Specifically, the most expensive channel only saw a 50% increase in impressions, but an almost 80% increase in clicks. We can see this even more so when inspecting the CPM per each channel, which you can see here in the lower left. I also highlighted bounce rates here though, because there does seem to be a large difference between social audience targeting, and that may point to issues with this particular segment, regardless of the cheaper cost per impression. We'll dive into this further in our analysis section, but suffice to say it does appear as though the client is accurately assessing which ad channel to focus on. Now moving on to site analytics, the first thing I want to mention is that we added the other section here to point out traffic to the site, either through organic means or some other non-ad related channel. Again, you'll notice with the exception of other, paid search continues to drive the most traffic. It also has the highest measure of goal conversions, both for goal 1 and goal 2, as well as the highest overall conversion rate at 12.7%. Double-clicking into new visitors also shows some interesting connections. Social audience targeting had the highest percentage of new visitors, which may in part explain the high bounce rates. But comparing this to paid search, we see bounce rates remained relatively flat, even though it experienced roughly the same percentage of new visitors. Average page views also had some observed differentiation across the separate channels. Once again, we see a sharp dip with social audience targeting. It would seem important to call out that we saw less bounce rates and more average page views from users just coming to the site on their own. We'll speak more through this once again in our analysis, but it does seem to be another indicator there is some deficiency occurring in this particular channel. Putting the ad buying data beside the site analytics data can also be helpful. The top table is data we've already gone over, but if we focus on the combined summaries table, we can see paid search was certainly the most costly and technically had a lower return on ad spend, but neither of the other 2 channels had a conversion rate that outmatched paid search. This does seem somewhat connected to overall cost of the ad channel though. Clearly paid search had the most conversions, but looking at the difference in conversion rates between display remarketing and social audience targeting separately shows both an increase in cost and an increase in conversion rate. Regardless of those percentages though, overall order value is the factor that we're using to determine success. If we look at this broken up by channel, we see very easily paid search earned the client the most money because it got the most conversions. However, I've also added return on ad spend here though, as well, because it does seem that there could be some potential for one or both of the other channels to grow further. The big point here is order value in that paid search category absolutely staggers the other 2. That being said, this seems to be a good segue to actually start diving into some of the data analysis portion. And we'll start off with some statistical validation and then close out with some predictive analysis and a small bit of prescriptive next steps. Just as a quick note, all the statistical tests displayed here were run using R in RStudio, but have been formatted into tables for viewing purposes. We began with chi-squares for click-through rates to confirm observed differences we were seeing among the channels. Expected values were significant. This returned an incredibly low p-value, thus allowing us to confidently say these differences are not the result of random chance. We also did the same analysis for several other measurements, including new visitors, bounces, goal 1 and goal 2 completions, and conversions. Among all of these results, we were able to confirm the observed differences were significantly different. This indicates there are genuine differences occurring across the channels. Moreover, we also began pointing our analysis at our main source of inquiry, that being order value. In doing this, we also observed a statistically significant interaction occurring between number of pages viewed and order value using a one-way ANOVA and a pairwise t-test. We use this as a launch point to further predict what factors affect order value the most for this client. To do this, we created a linear regression model to consider multiple variables, including new visitors, pages viewed, Goal 1 completions, and Goal 2 completions. From these, we were able to discern that new visitors and number of pages viewed had a significant positive correlation with order value. As just a quick aside, we'll also notice that Goal 1 and Goal 2 had no real effect on that was significantly observed, and that might indicate that Goal 1 and Goal 2 completions aren't as important as they seem and possibly need to be changed. But taking this a step further, we also noted that there was an interaction between new visitors and pages viewed as well. To see if this interaction could be a better predictor of order value, we performed the same regression with the added variable of new visitors times pages viewed. This resulted in an even more pronounced positive correlation with order value and a more confident p-value. To visualize this, we created a quick scatter plot representing new visitors times pages viewed on the y-axis and order value on the x-axis. The blue trend line clearly shows the positive correlation we spoke of earlier. To wrap up, we certainly saw this client made most of its return from paid search. This seems to be because the channel drew the most new visitors who also viewed a high number of pages on the site. Certainly, we can continue to drive success in this channel for the client, and that would likely lead to a considerable return increase. However, another strategy may be to rework the underperforming channel of social audience targeting. While this channel had the lowest amount of order value, it had the highest percentage of new visitors and a rather tempting return on ad spend. One option may be to slightly increase the cost spent in this channel, but create ads that are meant to improve average pages viewed. This could ultimately mean an increase in order value for the channel, but less overall cost required. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen in. I hope you enjoy your day.